January 2004. I was in the military at the time, I was in the Army. I was stationed up in Monterey, California, like straight shot up from here. My dad was flying out to visit me to convince me not to quit on myself, to convince me not to stop the very beginning of my journey. See, my father, he was my hero. He was the reason why I joined the military. It was this big, long family legacy. And I wanted to be a part of that. But just a couple weeks before that, we all did this big last family trip Christmas. We went to New York City. And at the end of that, he dropped this bomb on us. Hey guys, I don't know how much longer I have to live. I have this disease, it's called ALS. It's really, really accelerated. And my world changed. I was lost. And so I decided that, well, how can I be a part of this? Like, you're gonna need me, the family's gonna need me. And I found out that the military has this hardship clause. If you can prove that your family, the situation needs you more than the military needs you. At that time, it's 2003, fucking balls deep in OIF, OEF, like literally bombing every day. And I'm prepared to do that. I was like, no, like you need me more. I was making up this story of how involved in that story I needed to be. And so literally on his cane, barely able to make it through security on his own, the last literal days that he could walk, that he could talk, he flew out, spent 4 days with me to convince me not to. More importantly, he finally shook some sense into me, this thing that he had said his entire life, these two words, I'm not gonna take my shirt off, but these two words, my license plate, these two words of ever forward, ever forward. He taught me what it meant to look at the shit before you, look at the obstacle before you, and find the gift in it. To find the silver lining, to not like everything happens and it's for a reason, but like shit happens, good things happen, horrible things happen. In everything there's a gift, there's a purpose, and it's up to you to find that purpose. And so we had a lot of coffee, walked around, and he convinced me that his ending should not be the end of my beginning. January next year, I buried my father. And I used to think that a part of me was in that hole with him. And it was for about 10 years. I just stuffed it down. I didn't want to admit this part of my story. I didn't want to live it. I didn't want to feel it. And at the time, I gave myself the excuse, however valid it might have been, that I didn't have the luxury to, because I had to go back to being Army chief. I had to go back to being a soldier. I had to go back to my mission, my job. And so for the next 4.5 years, that's what I did. Mission first, military first. Just got to make Dad proud. Like, let's get this legacy thing going. And the grief, the trauma, all this stuff was just living right here. And to where one day I felt it was no longer bearable. And I was never going to take my own life, but I just lost hope for life. I didn't want to. I didn't care if I woke up the next day. And so instead, I got this wild, selfish asshole idea that what if I sped up, try to fast track, find a way right now as soon as possible to go over there to what we call it, to go into the shit, to be deployed, to stop doing the job that I was doing and just be one of the fucking guys has the highest chance of getting shot, getting blown up, so that I could come home in the same casket, wrapped in an American flag, that we put my dad in. Because the Army had just upped their life insurance policy at the time, was like $400,000. I was like, I couldn't be there for my family to help them the way that I thought I needed to be. But if I came home in a box, they would be set. They would have all this money and they'd be great. what do they say? Man plans and God laughs. The first deployment opportunity fell through. I wasn't the right rank at the time. They needed somebody a little bit higher up. So I was like, cool, challenge accepted. Worked my ass off, got promoted. Got promoted again. For anybody in the military or knows anything about it, I became an E6 in technically less than 5 years, which is very, very hard to do. All because I wanted to come home in a box. So the second opportunity was coming down the line. I was out in the field playing war games, pre-deployment training. This is what you go through before you go over there. And like I said, I was a leader at the time. I was in charge of other people. I was leading an ambush on what's called the Op 4, the opposing force, the fake enemy. And to this day, I still don't fully know what exactly happened, how it happened, because it was so fast, it was so severe. I was dehydrated, I was sleep deprived. I was probably there, not in my right headspace because of the reasons I just shared with you. So I was leading the attack. I was behind this berm. I had my weapon. We're in what's called full battle rattle. I got about 60, 80 pounds of body armor and all my gear, maybe 4 hours of sleep over the past week. And I popped up to lead this attack. And I swore to God, I was like, who is the asshole to put a live round? That's supposed to be a dry fire. I thought I got shot. I heard things and felt things in my body that you think, all right, cool, this is where I die. What happened? I don't know what happened. I now know that my L5 vertebrae went that way. The rest of my back and my body went this way. Tore my hamstring, suffered severe trauma to my back, my hips, all the things. They had to medevac me out. So you're broken, right? You can't be deployed. You're no good to yourself. You're no good to everybody else. So they pulled me out. I rehabbed. Tried to go back on the deployment roster. I re-injured myself, this time way worse. My body was just like, no, fuck you. I then found out that, hey, at this time I was about 21, 22. Look, your infrastructure's shot. The orthopedic surgeons were looking at everything I thought you were an 80-year-old man. What's going on here? Your injuries aren't healing correctly. You actually have a whole lot of new problems. And we're not only going to take you out of this unit, but we're going to put you into this med hold unit because for about the next year and a half, you're not going to walk. You're going to be a patient. You're going to have to learn everything all over again. So I was like, cool, all right. Don't have a choice at this time, so opportunity to be deployed was basically gone. Got put into this medical hold unit, completely pulled out of my regular unit. All of my peers, my team was gone. So I became a patient. From about my knee to the top of my ass, I've got incisions on both sides of my body where they cut you open, remove the femur, completely reshape, reconstruct everything, clean up all the shit that I'd messed up, shave it down, put it back in, 2 pins to kind of keep it there. Bedridden for days, weeks. Could maybe hobble on a cane. There's nothing like looking at your body, looking down, saying, move. Just fucking walk, move. And it doesn't. So I was emotionally broken before, spiritually even in a way, after losing my father and trying to just go down this path that was not my story. And then I became physically broken. I wanted to come home in a box. Universe, God was like, hey, no, actually, we'll get you really close to it. But no, you're not meant for that. So I rehabbed one side, got to be able to walk again. Literally all I did day in, day out was just lie on my fucking bed, maybe make it to the couch, go to the therapist, learn how to walk again for about 6-8 months. It was about 8 months after the first surgery where I could do this. And hey, great, Chewning, looking good. We're gonna go back and do the other side now. Go back to the ground zero, go back to start. Cool, we're gonna do the left side now. Real pro tip, if you're ever in the military, work with a military doctor, don't let an intern do your epidural because they will fuck it up. And it doesn't feel good when you're conscious and you're awake. So about 3-4 times when the epidural in, he's like, sorry, I'm new. I was like, no fucking shit. He was an officer, way outranked me, and I'm pretty sure I said that. And they're like, cool, we'll let this one pass, Chewning, because you're under a lot of pain meds. Otherwise, I would have been in some trouble. So I went through that process again for my left side. Shortly afterwards, kind of fast forward the story a little bit, I re-injured it. and wound up tearing up some of the equipment they had put in me, my bionic man situation, but it was so fresh that like, look, we can't go in and fix this. You just need to endure. Cool. So about 10 months of rehab, 10 months later, figuring out, okay, now let me do this from the bed to the couch. Where's my cane? Where's my walker? Where's my wheelchair? Learned how to walk again twice. And then this big thing that I was after, to go over there, was fully removed from me when they told me, hey, you are so broken, we have absolutely no use for you. So they gave me the boot. They kicked me out. I was medically retired. I wanted to do the full 20 years in the military. I make this lame joke all the time. I'm Chase, I make dad jokes. Hey, cool, I'll do 20 years. I was 17 when I enlisted. My mom had to re-sign the paperwork to get her consent twice because she kept crying. She's like, I don't want my baby boy to go. At 37, I can retire. I can start all over. I can do the next career, whatever. I fast-tracked. I retired at 23 after 6 years. So I got my military retiree blue card. I get all the privileges and get to go on base and save 0.003 cents per gallon on gas. And so they gave me the boot. This was summer 2009. And I was like, all right, well, if I can do this, what can I do? I can go back to what I was trying to do. I was trying to be there for my family, make up for this lost time, interject myself into their story because that's what I thought they needed and they wanted. But it was just because I didn't know what the fuck I wanted. I didn't know what I needed. So let me just mask it. So I went back. I toured this college. It was back in Richmond, Virginia, VCU. Barely able to walk. I had my cane. I'm this 23-year-old kid with his mom helping him walk around to register to classes, to get enrolled. Doing mom stuff. Do you need a sandwich? Do you want some juice? And so I realized that the human body is amazing. I was beginning to move better and feel better, and so I studied exercise science because I wanted that for me, for selfish reasons. Exercise, fitness, nutrition, all these things was going to look drastically different. My daily activity levels were completely shot. And so how can I learn how to learn this new body all over again? So I studied it. I fell in love with it, began to go down some jobs in this path. Got some internships and realized, hey, you can do this as a job. Maybe one day, cool, if you're successful enough, you can own your own gym. Much less what the hell a podcast was at the time, or online coaching, or coaching in general. And so I fell in love with it. I began to do internships. I became the personal trainer. I became the group exercise instructor. I became the health coach. I became all these things and got put on a path that put me in a job that I loved, but the business, the corporation, the lack of fulfillment, the lack of integrity around it was just gnawing away at me. I'll never forget this moment. One day I pulled into the parking lot of my job up in McLean, Virginia, just a little bit south of Jason. And I just sat in my car. I was like, I don't want to go in there. And I looked at my schedule and I saw them. We called them patients, my clients. And I was like, I love this person. I love this person. Like, we've been working together for a year, 2 years. Like, this is going to be a great check-in. But like, I just didn't want to get out of my car. And I say that because I mirror that kind of hesitation to something that you feel this compulsion that you're supposed to do, that you need to do, that you've been doing for a long time, that is your identity or you think is your identity, was much like the same conversation, that sense of identity, what I was supposed to be doing, when I talked to Jason, when he heard that in me, and he's like, no, got to move on to something else, because he doesn't know this part, but like, it's all new right now in my head. It's like, you're sitting in your car again. I was sitting in my car again at that time with him. And so I decided right then and there, I was like, I got to get out. So I gave myself this hard-ass goal of, it was about 6 months out. It was like, you need to match your salary, which in DC is not easy to do. So I worked hard. I was going in deeper with the people that I was working with for free. I kind of had a side hustle, not really. Was training some people in my apartment gym back in DC for a little bit. And just like, all right, if I got intentional with this, what can I do? What is possible? And not to toot my own horn, but like I smashed that 6 months goal. In like 3 months, I was like, cool, I dropped my 3 months notice with my company, even bumped it up a little bit, saved up all my PTO, and I was gone in December. I'd already started podcasting at the time as a way to become better at my job. It was predominantly health and fitness. I was interviewing all these authors, influencers, experts in the field, because they made me better at my job. I was listening to podcasts, driving to this job that I hated, but I made that commute better by passive education. So I was podcasting a little bit, figuring shit out, was health coaching a little bit, in-person training a little bit. I launched this health coaching app. It grew. Luckily at the time, my brother had the balls before me to share these 2 words with the rest of the world. That was just in our family. He launched this company called Forward Apparel, and people liked it. It was well received. Not only that, it showed me that this story is bigger than us. My story is bigger than us. I was doing my father the biggest disgrace to not fully step into it. And so I launched Forward Radio about a year or 2 later, left my company, started doing the podcasting, started doing health coaching, Forward Coach, and then it grew and grew and grew. I had about 7, 8 other coaches at the time, and it was just like I was just feeding the machine. The passion was gone. I was sitting back in my car again in the parking lot. And all the while I was recognizing, like thinking back to every interview that I'd done at the time, every person, every client that I had, every patient, in person, online, through my app, whatever, it didn't really matter what nutrition advice I gave them, to a degree. It didn't really matter what fitness program I gave them, to a degree. What mattered was that I showed up as a human being. What mattered was that I took off this like hierarchy hat of I'm the expert, you don't know shit, you're inferior, I'm superior, I have all the answers, and just became a human being. Every client that I had for years, every person that I interacted with that had the most success, the most adherence, was because I put on my humanization hat and I took time to share my story. I would pull this one out a lot. Oh, I stubbed my toe 6 years ago, that's why I can't exercise. Oh, that's cool, like, I learned how to walk again twice. Yeah, not like that, I'm not an asshole. But I was like, yeah, injury sucks. I remember being bedridden for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, just hoping that I could, I was so excited that day I got to walk to the kitchen, and it didn't take me all fucking day. And that changed their mind a little bit. It wasn't like, oh, cool, like here's the best mobility warm-up for your ankle so that your toe is happy so you can go take a walk. I shared my story. The more that I shared my story, they began to open up and understand theirs. And understand that we all have stories, and we're all just stories, just walking, talking stories. And when you can find that little section, that little line, maybe it's the whole page, maybe it's the whole chapter, and somebody else, that just something goes off in your head. Like, oh, like me too, you too. And the thing was, the whole point of all this is that who here thinks that you're in this business, fitness coaching, health coaching, gym owner, whatever, because you're not special, you're just like, hey, I got good at something, or like, I just love helping people, like this is my passion, it's my fulfillment. Like, I'm no one special, I didn't create exercise. Nobody? Yeah? You're all wrong. You are special. You all have a unique story in you. You've gone through something, you have something extraordinary in you that you've experienced, that you've been through, that consciously, subconsciously happened, and it's there. And you're doing your clients and your patients and your audience, your following, your community, your peers, your coach, the biggest disservice by not sharing that. And understand it takes time to go through some things. For me, it took 10 years, diagnosed PTSD, multiple panic attacks where I almost wrecked my car, panic attacks of leaving movie theaters because I couldn't watch anyone get sick. I couldn't watch anyone be in the hospital without being transplanted back in time, having craziness happen in my life, having a panic attack, becoming unsafe to my environment. To the point to where I had the worst one, and I realized that, hey, my workout's great. I'm training 8 days a week. I hit all my macros. I'm killing it. I just got promoted. But all this shit, the story, the part of me, my story, the part of my story that needed to come out the most, I was suppressing the most because it was the darkest one, it was the scariest one. Or it's the one that I just didn't think nobody really cared about. Yeah, cool. People have lost people. People have been in the military. People have been injured. People stub toes. Who am I? It's not up to you to decide who you are. It's not up to you to decide how special you are. Your audience gets to decide that. Your clients get to decide that. They get to decide what you see in yourself. What you don't see in yourself, they will tell you. And the second that I began to share that, and I truly opened up, I'll never forget this. This one One of my last patients in my job, she came in to me. We were talking about service level. Hey, I'm just looking for a new routine. I want to get out of the house. Several months later, realized she wasn't, because the time that we had decided for her to go to this yoga class was the time that her husband, who just passed away last year from ALS, that was when they would take a walk. That's when they would go to happy hour. That's when they would do whatever. And it was these triggers. And once she shared that with me, I was like, oh my God, fucking me too. Like, I never told you that part of me because I didn't think it was special. It's not up to me to decide what's special. It's not up to you to decide what's special. And if you want perennial success, if you want longevity, if you want to grow, okay, some tactics. If you want to grow your social media audience, if you want to increase your outreach and your engagement, if you want to double down on the value that you give the people you have right now and grow 10, 100-fold later, this is it. The tactic is, it's you. You came in here with it. The same thing that is going to help keep you perennial, that is going to level you up. What everybody has said this weekend has been amazing. Absolutely great tactics. But I'm telling you, what you leave with today is the same thing you came with, and it's you, and it's your story. So what I did was I was like, okay, I want to better understand my story. I want to better translate my story. What is my story? So I began to just go back literally as far as I could remember and just kind of build my life and understand these chapters and then just share it in different ways. Wholeheartedly, openly, honestly. And so when I shared I suffer from PTSD. I've had a traumatic brain injury because I was hooked on narcotic pain medications from these surgeries that I gave myself a seizure, knocked myself out so hard, I suffered a traumatic brain injury. The Loud had some wild shit. Hydromorphine, like pill form morphine is pretty amazing. It's not good long term, don't do it, but it's pretty dope. So I began to share these sides of me, share those aspects, share what I thought was dark and dirty and pointless and no one can really relate. So when I did that, the floodgates opened up. My ideal client, my ideal audience member was out there. They presented themselves. They said, yes, me too. Oh my God, I had no idea. Wow, Chase, you're so happy all the time. Well, that's the cold brew. But also it's because I fully understood my story. And I took the time to unravel it, to share it, to then give people in my audience, to give my patients, my clients, the permission slip that they don't know, they don't need, but they will hear in your story to share that with you, to move forward in their adherence in their program, to move forward in their story. And so that's what I did. Talked to Jason about it. I realized I want to go double down on story. Stop doing the coaching. I still, I have I don't think I'll ever fully kind of leave the coaching mentor aspect because I just love pouring into others in certain ways. But the podcast for me, I was able to just completely own it, and that's what I do now. So that only happened because of sharing all the darkness, sharing all the highs, the lows, and allowing a guy to be on the phone with me to just talk and share a part of my story that I didn't even know I needed to say out loud, and then for someone to mirror it back to me, and it clicked. This is what I got to do. So I challenge you all to spend time understanding your story. And actually, Jason, this came to me the other day, man, when you were, if I was a marker, where would I be? You're asking everybody for framework, and in a way, I feel sorry, Cam, everybody got their website? I feel like I always knew this, but again, the importance of having someone around you to ask these questions, to call you out, to mirror things, is so that you can finally say what you've been afraid to say or didn't know you need to say all along. Here's my framework that I believe is everybody's framework. Should have gone to med school with my handwriting. Appreciate you guys. Start with the self. Not in an egotistical way, but get to know thyself. Know thyself. Spend time journaling, brain dumping. Literally, you don't have to go as far back as me, but I literally went back to what is my very first memory as a human being. I want to know my story. I need to know when it began, consciously, at least a little bit. Know yourself, study yourself, understand your story, do things like this, read, listen to podcasts, Everforward Radio. In understanding yourself, mark your adversities. Wow, like I really struggled to pass my board exam. Wow, like it took me 8 times to get my personal trainer certification. Wow, I used to be 100 pounds overweight that no one knows about. Wow, this, wow, that. Write them down, share them. And then all these things that you don't think are special, all these things that are just like, no, it's just me, it's who I am, I don't want to share. These are all the things that your clients, your audience members, your peers, your family will tell you are your advantages. This is your superpower. Yourself, your adversities, your advantages, you've got your fucking story. And it never stops. You just get to rewrite. You don't get to rewrite. You get to better understand so that you can better write today, write tomorrow. This is my secret sauce. This is not my tactics, but if I had to think back, my framework, what I did when those panic attacks got so bad, what happened when my personal and professional relationships went to shit, even though on the outside I was doing everything right. I didn't know who the hell I was because I was denying that, I was suppressing it. I recognized my adversities. I recognized what I went through emotionally, spiritually, in every single way. Even stubbing toes, that shit still sucks. Post about it. And then my audience, my clients, my peers, my family, Jason, Cam, Michael, Trish, everybody here that I've got continues to remind me of the advantages that I have in my life, that I have in my story. So that's what I focus on, and that's my story.